DizzyPunch. Hello and welcome to the GM Bus Stop, where I summon people to keep me company while I wait for my bus. I'm Nick, your host for this series, and here with me today is the founder and fellow GM of the Forge D20 podcast, Zach Coldiron.
Hey everybody, how's everyone doing?
It's a pleasure to have you here, Zach. I should also
And
say
it's a pleasure to be here.
that not only you are a talented GM and voice actor, but you are also a professional wrestling manager, a commentator, and a ringside announcer, which is incredible. How did professional wrestling become part of your life?
All right, so, man, back in 2017, I started getting into professional wrestling for the first time. I had just gone through one of the worst breakups of my life. I was literally staring into the abyss, and it was staring back at me, type thing. And one day, my buddy Hunter, who helps me, he GMs Thrones on Forge 20 with me. He said, "Hey man, look, I know you're not in the best headspace right now. Why don't you come over, hang out? We'll have a couple drinks. We'll watch some WrestleMania because WrestleMania was on at the time." And we went over. I fell in love in 5 minutes. Like, I've always been a fan of combat sports. I love UFC. I love MMA, jiu-jitsu, all that kind of stuff. So I immediately fell in love, and the first thing that came into my mind was, I want to do that. I've always been like, I never was like a stage actor or anything like that, but I wanted to do something similar, and I felt like that was the perfect avenue to get into it. So I started going to this wrestling school called the Lethal Academy in Tampa, Florida, that was run by professional wrestler and AEW superstar Jay Lethal, and I trained there for quite some time. I unfortunately suffered a shoulder injury that sidelined me for quite some time, so I had to switch to managing color commentating and all that stuff. So that's how I got into that avenue of the business, and then I have started trying to train again at another school in Tampa called Death Proof Dojo, run by National Wrestling Alliance superstar Chris Silvio, and I'm hoping to get back into that soon, but man, yeah, I love professional wrestling, and honestly, I'm going to say this, and a lot of my wrestling buddies who are going to be listening to this are going to agree with me. Professional wrestling saved my life, and cheers to that.
Mm, That's beautiful, man. That's real beautiful. I've I've always had like a vast respect for professional wrestlers. I know that people don't really consider it to be a very difficult thing, but it's like I think it's a much more hard aspect than actually being an actor. You're not only performing in front of the people, but you're also doing like very hard physical activity to do it. I mean, like the athleticism to both like shout to people and to pick someone up, even if they are giving you help to do it, is just incredible.
It really is, and when you think about it, like, you have to manage focusing on what you have to do next, communicating with your partner, trying to keep the crowd engaged, listening to the ref because the ref is telling you something the promoter is trying to tell you because he's in the back and he can't come up and tell you directly. It's a lot to manage, and it is not for the faint of heart. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely, and I'm very fortunate that nowadays we do have like series that are kind of spotlighting like what goes on behind this professional wrestling aspect, like Heels and Glow, and then like I remember there was a film with Mickey Moore, Rourke, excuse me, called The Wrestler, which just kind of showed like a wrestler going from the highs and lows of a very low rated wrestler, and it was both like heartwarming, wrenching, and oh man.
Yeah, I just like to see it in the media. Like, recently, I watched the Iron Claw. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I saw it on HBO Max, and man, let me tell you, just to see wrestling finally get, like, I feel like the spotlight it's deserved after like disappearing practically for 20 years because people became disinterested for whatever reason. It's just beautiful to me because honestly, wrestling is what got me into wanting to become a D&D content creator. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today without it.
Absolutely, and that kind of like sides line with the kind of not there's the acting aspect also, but there's also the improvisation that has to occur. So it really ties into D&D in itself. So that's why I kind of want to spotlight this point because I'm pretty sure everything you've taken and learned from wrestling has helped you apply it into D&D.
Absolutely. The main thing that they tell us in wrestling is it's always the little things, and show or don't show, or show, don't tell.
Yeah, it's
So,
something like
and if you
that.
exactly, and if you apply that into D&D, where recently, because before I would be like the DM who just wants to lore dump every episode.
hmm
Over the last couple years, that changed. I was like, how can I show my characters this without directly telling them something is going to happen? And I've recently been applying that, and I feel like it makes the story feel more whole, more grounded, and more like a web more than a frayed, destroyed web, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's very difficult to kind of like, because when when we're doing audio, you have to explain things. It's one of the facts, and like lore dumping is one of the things that we consider to be like, okay, my players need to understand what's happening. I have to like explain it in like a long form, so that way there is no question to like what the plot is in that sense. But like, I have found it very fun to have moments where I'm just explaining what's happening and like having them react to things instead of having to like explain what the story is supposed to be.
Absolutely, because I feel like, and this is just my opinion, if you have to explain what's going on, your players probably don't understand what's going on. And
Mm.
if you would just, show them, the little things, they're going to be like, oh, like, oh, let me give you an example. Last night we were fighting a Hydra
Mm.
for our D&D session, and I built it up. You see 10 foot of footprints going into the water. Oh, okay, let's track what's in the water. You put your head under the water. You see some blood. Why is there blood? The blood ends up leading to a ruin. Okay, what's in this ruin? Oh, it's the Hydra. Little things like that. If I were to
Hmm.
just like, you show up at the lakeside and a Hydra comes out, it's not as cool. It doesn't build up tension. If you're not building up tension, it's like a balloon. Once it pops,
It's over.
it's just how it has
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
Just how it has to be.
Well, now that we've segmented our way to D&D, I'll ask you another question. I think the starting point of every campaign is probably one of the most challenging decisions as a GM because it sets the tone for the rest of the series. What was your thought process in starting Tales of Lodrianth as a murder mystery?
Ooh, man. So, fun fact: we Tales of Lodrianth, we tried to run it a couple years ago,
Oh.
under the guise of Forge 20. Unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, and there were like 6 players at the table at the time, it was really hard to manage it. And it was originally a murder mystery. Um, However, Dallas Finstrom, the character who was unfortunately murdered, was actually alive. But we ended up scrapping that idea and transforming it into what it is now, where they are now trying to figure out who has murdered Dallas Finstrom. Now that they're starting to figure out what's going on, and that it's part of a bigger picture of what's going on,
Hmm.
I definitely am glad that even though some things didn't work out, it's starting to work out, and it's just all about time. So so what I did to decide, to where we want to start, I said, okay, one of my characters is a mercenary. What would a mercenary do? They would take a job. Okay, so they're going to meet with a noble that they've probably met before, and they're going to get a job from this noble to try to scrap some, scrappy adventurers to try to help him figure out who did murder Dallas Finstrom. So that's kind of where I decided to start, because a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, you already know each other, or the stereotypical you met in a tavern, and I used to be guilty of doing that all the time. Yeah, it's fun because you get to drink with your friends, just
Hmm.
BS for a couple of minutes, but then after like doing that 10 times, it gets quite boring. So I decided to shake it up a little bit.
That's great. You know, it's very difficult to get three random people with different professions all into one room and to follow a single plot line. it's it's harder than it thinks, but it's fun to find ways to get everyone together. I remember when I was starting out with Arquebus, I was very clear and cut of like, okay, we're in a city where there's multiple crime factions and like the police can't be trusted and anything else. So how are these people going to make a difference? And it was like, oh, okay, so they work outside the law. They're kind of like outlaws, but they work for the police. It's a fun little it's a fun dynamic, but I think like it fits for what we're doing, and I'm very happy with what we've come up with, and I also assume that you guys are very happy with how Tales of Lodrian is going. I imagine.
Oh yeah, man, things are about to get crazy. I think I posted the episode yesterday, but the episode I posted yesterday sets the tone for the rest of the campaign. And my God, my players have no idea what they are in store for. I fully expect some character deaths coming soon if they don't make smart decisions.
Every player's dream to just hear this is like, you're all gonna die pretty soon if you don't get your shit together. That's right.
Hey man, wake up call.
Yeah. Oh, you just want to go to a bar, to a tavern? You just want to have some drinks with your friends? Nah, we're putting you in danger, my guy.
A group of mind flayers decides to attack the taverns you're in. You're all dead.
I just wanted to sleep in. Well, too bad. Uh, that's always fun to just like put players in like immediate danger when they were just expecting nothing else. It was like I remember I think this episode hasn't been posted out yet on our channel, but there's an episode that's called Vegisaurus versus Steel Defender, and it's essentially like the crew was just walking around and they're going to like the warehouse to meet up, and then suddenly out of nowhere like dinosaurs made out of vegetables came around the corner, and then they're like, what the fuck is happening? And then I was like, you there were signs of this, you didn't know, you should have paid attention.
Yep, always pay attention to the little details because now you get Vegisaurus. I love that, by the way.
Oh,
I am obsessed with dinosaurs. I have a character who is like weirdly obsessed with wanting to ride a T-Rex. Like, I'm not kidding. That is fucking awesome.
yeah, that kind of the idea of Vegisauruses came back from a campaign I was a part of, where it was like we had the player who absolutely hated the idea of like hurting animals in any entirety, and they were like, "Listen, I don't care if it's fantasy. Any animals is hurt, I'm out." And I was and there, and the DM was like, "Cool." And then every animal was made out of like food products, and they were like, "That works, I guess." Yeah, that's
They're not real animals.
they're
They're
not.
food, right?
Yeah. And that kind of came back to this campaign, which is fun. I'll say this one thing that came up was that I was working in the morning. I work as I'm a part-time blacksmith, and I was working in the shop, and then suddenly my boss is like, "Hey, we have some food over here. Do you want some?" And I was like, "What is it?" It's arugula, and I was like, "Arugula Rex. Okay, that works. Yes, that sounds close enough. We're good then."
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
So you said you're a blacksmith?
yeah, I'm a part.
Okay, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I'm
No,
about to go on a tangent.
go ahead.
So my original wrestling gimmick was the blacksmith.
Oh,
I didn't post that anywhere on my Instagram or anything like that, but like I was going to be the blacksmith. I just think that's cool, man. Blacksmithing is awesome.
yeah. I use it as a part-time job because it helps kind of. The hours are really good, and my boss is easy enough, so it works out. Where I am right now, there's not a lot of people interested in it, so my boss is very much kind enough to get me a position. Like I live in Europe. It's not like the communication is a bit difficult, but I just came in there like, "Hey, I need a job," and he was like, "Okay, cool, come tomorrow." I was like, "Okay, sweet," and then that that was it. It was like great. It's great. I love it. I do all
That's
the
awesome.
yeah. It's not like I smash hammers and shit and everything. I'm really much doing the bitch work of like cutting things up, making sure the measurements are all right, like using my grit strength to just pull metal from here and there. I was on a roof recently and I had to put out all the scaffolding needed for something. It was like it was difficult, but it was good. It feels good to like do something physical when you're always in front of your computer a bit. So yeah,
No, I would agree. It's sometimes it's nice to, get out of the house. Like when I'm not editing this podcast, go for a walk. The
absolutely.
outside is very calming. Nature is calming. Nature is beautiful.
Yeah, except when you meet a Vegisaurus.
I don't know. I'd want to pet one.
I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't if I saw a dinosaur in real life. I would be like, okay, cool, bye, good. Nah, that's not me. I'm good. Like
I do not blame you.
I have it's not with dog. I like dogs. I'll be like, oh, cute dog. I'll pet it. But like, if I see something else that's not familiar, I'll be like, nope, I'm good. Bye. But yeah. Well, I guess we'll move on to the next question then. On your series Thrones, you've changed hands from GM to PC in a one-player campaign hosted by your friend Hunter. What drew you to play Isaiah Redmore, and what were the biggest changes you find telling a story as a player compared to telling it as a GM?
Mm. So for Thrones episode 0,
Hmm.
Isaiah Redmore was a character I wanted to play that was like a reflection of myself.
I could, yeah, I saw
So
that. I saw that very
yeah,
much.
I got a fiance back
Yeah,
home. I can't wait to go get married and go see
exactly.
her, which she's on vacation right now. She's coming home today. I actually can't wait to see her
Mhm.
again. God damn it. Anyways, but I was like, man, I want to play Isaiah. And this episode's been out for like almost 7 months, 6 months now. I'm just going to full send this. Isaiah, unfortunately, was going to be my scapegoat for the real character I wanted to play. So I
Oh.
was like, I'm going to kill the more positive version of myself, which is Isaiah, who's like more, uppity. I can't wait to go see my wife. Life is good right now, because unfortunately he's killed by a white dragon. And in
Mm.
Thrones episode 1, well, we meet Daedalus, who is being, I guess you could use the term DMPC
Yeah.
by Hunter, and then you have Alistair Darkheart, who is actually the Lord. His Alistair's father was the Lord of this town called Darkvale, where Isaiah Redmore is from, and I wanted to show the more not sinister sides, but the more negative emotions that I've dealt with in my life through Alistair, and that
Mm.
no matter what happens to you in your life, like Alistair lost his entire family. None of them are alive anymore. No, Alistair knows what happens, but I'm not going to say what happens because it's not been explicitly told to the audience yet. But Alistair, despite all these bad things happening to him, is still a good person, and he still wants to be a good person. And I'm trying to show and convey, at least in this campaign, that it is not hard to be a good person. It takes little effort to be a good person and to be kind to people, because you don't know what other people are going through.
Very interesting. Very interesting. It's very when you were explaining at the beginning, it felt very much similar to like the Guts and kind of Thorfinn character progression.
You make me giggle, because guess where we got inspiration
Yeah.
from?
I pay attention. I pay attention at the very least. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, like, it was very reminiscent of kind of like if you ever seen not seen but have you heard of the on the Unexpectables kind of the second season where it kind of ends up like that, where it's like, oh, everything's good, and then suddenly a dragon pops in it and just decimates everything, and it's like, this is the campaign we are in now.
Oh my goodness, it very much is like that.
Mm. But yeah, that's always a cool aspect. I haven't played a player character in a very long time now. I've just been DMing because I haven't been able to, one, find time, and nor other find like just a group besides my group, because no one else is able to. No one else has the pressure. It is. I have to say, it's being a GM is very pressure tense, because not only you're focusing on like trying to convey your story and the world around you, but you also have to follow the rules that you have to that D&D is, because everyone's very critical about that. We had problems with Fish in the beginning because Fish was overtly critical about a lot of rules that was being placed, and then I was like, at a certain point, I was like, Fish, we're stopping here. We if the, unless you give me where it's written in the book, we're continuing on with what we're saying, and we gotta keep moving forward. You know.
No, I full heartedly agree with that. I think, and this is at least me, because I have been like PC converted to Forever GM to back to half and half.
Mm.
Like at the end of the day, I think that you should be, as a GM and a player, should be doing whatever it makes to make the story better. And if it means throwing out a rule or two out of the window for just one brief moment because it would make a cool storytelling beat, you throw out the rules. The rules are just a guideline to be practiced, and I believe that is in the Dungeon Master Guide. I can't pull out what page it is, but I know it says in the Dungeon Master Guide that these are just guidelines to follow, and you don't have to necessarily follow the rules.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. Make the game as fun as you want to, and don't focus on what other people would think about it.
Exactly. It is a collaborative storytelling experience, so you
Hmm.
have to take everybody into consideration. So
Hmm.
I kind of like, that's why democracy is important. I let my group vote on in the moment on stuff like that. Hey, do you guys mind if he does this because rule of cool? And then 3 out of 3 people will just be like, "Yep, okay, we're moving on with that."
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, Rule of cool, always the important rule. You know, but you also put up a very interesting point about being empathetical, because I think that's the most important aspect of being a GM, is just being empathetical not only to your PCs but also like the NPCs that live in your world. You have to understand, like, these aren't just like random people. These people have goals, wishes, dreams. They're not going to react the same way as everyone else would. Not everyone, but not every other person you try to play.
You're absolutely right about that. And people, and I think this is an issue that most GMs have, is that they don't come up with a goal or an objective for their NPCs, because they think about it, right? D&D emulates not exactly real life, but it emulates it in a way, well, from a social standpoint. So you have to take into consideration that, hey, this character has X goal that they want to achieve. So they're going to be very loyal to their goal. Because if you think about it, like put yourself in that person's situation. If my goal was to be, I don't know, the best mercenary in the world, right? Most people will do anything they want, that they can to achieve their dream.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I mean, you got, as a DM, you have to take that into consideration, because if you don't take that into consideration, your world just feels flat and it doesn't feel whole, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Everyone feels the same. That's a big problem that you have. Like, how do you distinguish people is by making damn sure you understand what their goals and wants are.
Yeah, and if a character, like if any NPC, I make sure, even if I come up with an NPC on the fly, they have a goal,
Yeah.
even if it's something small. Oh, I'm trying to go home and eat dinner. Oh, okay. The random commoner we see on the street. Can we get some information from you? Pay for your dinner tonight. That's just like the little things are so important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I will harp on that forever. I think that like a campaign is like a spider web, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in some sort of way is connected to somebody else. Even a commoner is somehow maybe connected to a noble house. Like, think about it. I think about it from this way. In my life, I do a lot of networking.
Mm-hmm.
I think networking is the key to success. For example, I said I trained with Jay Lethal. I know Jay Lethal. He knows Tony Khan, who is the CEO of AEW. I'm literally 2 points away from one of the most powerful people in the world, right? So sometimes it's going to be like that in a D&D campaign too, and people need to take that into consideration, I think, when they're doing world building, because small details like that will make your world feel so much more vibrant and living.
Yeah. And, you know, that connection as well is so fascinating because when you think about it, it also shows your characters how they affect people. Because, you know, let's say our character, like we had a situation where one character had killed this person, and it was connected to another NPC that they really love and admire, but they were connected because they were like brother and sister. So you've kind of like, in reaction of killing someone, you've hurt someone close to you without realizing it. And that
And
kind
you're
of,
building storytelling beats and
yeah.
creating a dilemma for the
Mm-hmm.
character, which when you create a dilemma for someone to create conflict like that, it's going to make the story arc for that character in particular so much better.
Yeah, and it just makes you think more about like, oh shit, my actions do have consequences no matter what I do. So it's like it stops your players from being murder hobo, which is great, but it also just builds builds a good way of you creating a vivid world in that sense, world building.
Exactly. And I think that's so beautiful because, like you said, like you don't want to have a campaign full of murder hobos. I mean, even when I play with one murder hobo, I want to become the murder hobo
It's
because I cannot stand that stuff.
it's fun, the idea of like doing stuff without consequences, but like that's not real life in a sense. Like, you know, you can't have maxed out your charisma and do anything you want and just convince people not to hurt you. There's going to be there's going to be consequences to whatever you do.
Yeah, exactly. And like, to bring up an example, this isn't for my campaign in particular, but I've seen this dilemma thrown around like on social media. Like, let's say I'm a bard, right? And I've
Mhm.
got like fucking +10 to my persuasion check. And I go to the king of the kingdom and I say, "Give me your crown. I'm the king now." Even if I rolled a natural 20 and rolled a 30, do you think that king is going to give me his crown? No. No, he's fucking not.
It's it's fucking absurd. The lengths we go to with rolls. I mean, like it's also a question of like, how do we treat dice rolls in our worlds? Because, you know, how we decide how nat 20s work, how nat 1 works is just different for everyone's perspective, but they're all important for ways to help do story beats, you know? Like, there was this one time where fucking Fish rolled 3 nat 20s at once. I'm not joking. He rolled 3 nat 20s at once. I think if he hacked roll 20, that might have been it, but I don't know. He rolled it 3 at once, and there was like this thing. There was this indestructible ball that was like holding his friend, and I was like, yeah, if you want to attack it, go ahead. Nat 20, nat 20, nat 20. What the fuck? Why? And then it was me as a GM being like, this is broken. This is no longer unbreakable. There are holes in this ball now. Be damned with my story.
I mean, sometimes I think it depends, because it sounds like they were trying to do an attack on this creature.
Yeah.
Like, technically, I think rules is written a nat 20 for attack rolls hits. I think it's different for skill checks and saving throws. But
But it
Like
wasn't
at
like
that
a
point,
it wasn't like a creature. It was like this force field ball, and now they were like, I want to hit this ball, and I was like, okay, sure, hit it. And then it's like it's meant to be indestructible, but they were able to like fucking nat 20, and it was like, okay, sure, this thing's broken now. This thing is gone. Be damned with.
I mean the fact that they did it 3 times in a
Yeah,
row, you kind of got to be like, okay, yeah,
there's
you
nothing I
that's
could
an incredible
say.
feat.
There's nothing I could say or do now. It's happened. It's not. It's out of my hands. There's sometimes where God's like, fuck. Well, yeah. This is it. But yeah, that's also what makes D&D fun is like the unexpected aspect of it. It's not just you, but it's also the dice, which tell its own story.
Oh, they really do. The dice love to tell their own story in the best and the worst way.
Absolutely. I feel like my dice really hate like I've mentioned Fish before. Like there are times where I've rolled nat where he's like, oh yeah, I've got this perfect build, I can't get knocked down, and then I'm like, oh cool, I rolled nat 20, you take 50 damage. He's like, okay, I'm on a sliver of health. It's like not even me that's like wanting this. I truly believe my dice just like hate when people show off, and they like I love it for them. I like never want to trade them. Like I know people like having like multiple dice, but I was gifted these one pair of dice. I don't need any more. These have been with me forever, and they've told the best stories, and I don't need any other dice because of it.
Yep, everyone's got their one trusty dice. Because I'm a dice goblin, I do
Hmm.
have multiple sets of dice, but
Hmm.
I only pull them out for when I have to roll like a fireball or something that requires a bunch of d6s.
Mm,
But I have my trusty set of metal dice, and I will never part with them. There's so
truly.
many good memories, good stories. I do not blame you for not wanting to use any other set of dice, as a matter of fact.
Mm. I know. I remember just watching like Dimension 20 and was like, this dice doesn't work. They throw it out of the fucking dome, and then they just like I mean, to be fair, I mean like was it Lou the one who was always rolling that one like Lou don't roll that one dice. He's like rolls it not one, and then everyone just like get rid of it. But I do, when it comes to like large damage rolls, I don't really want to do it with my the dice because it's just too hassle. I just use roll 20, which is nice. The difference of like using roll 20 in comparison to like being live is more of the fact that it becomes a bit more useful when it comes to like mapping things out. Like I'm not sponsored by roll 20. I'm not. In fact, there are problems with roll 20, but I will say that there are some nice things about it which help.
Yeah, and I think that comes with any VTT that anybody uses. I don't. I used to use Roll20.
Mhm.
Actually, I like it. It has its problems. I
Mhm.
100% agree with that. But I love how VTTs that they streamline the D&D process. One, it makes it easier for me to record. Two,
Mhm.
it makes it easier to roll damage rolls. And three, to give my players a better visual than a bunch of lines that are very poorly drawn on a piece of dry erase board. I'll take that any day.
Absolutely. My gosh. And also, it helps with managing distance to tell you whether or not how far you are. Visually, like I understand theater of the mind is quite nice, but like when it comes to like rolling statistical stuff, it becomes like very cumbersome.
It does, because then sometimes you'll play with people who like I used to do combat and theater of the mind, and people would be like, "Well, how far am I from the enemy?" Well, like, damn, it would be nice to have a visual representation of how far they actually are. So I just at the end of the day, I'm just like, screw it. Pull out the good old reliable dry erase board. We're gonna draw some things up because this is too much work.
Yeah. Ah, dry erase board. Good times. Good times. I remember I think it was the first part, my first ever campaign I was a part of, like first legit campaign. It was my friend Ethan and I. We were in college and he brought me over to his house and he was like brought over like 6 people and we are like, okay, we're gonna play D&D today. I was like, cool, sweet. Here's like a shit ton of dice. Here's a board that was like fully like so used up that you could barely see if there's any like natural white left. And then we had
Oh no.
a bunch of like Warhammer minis that we represented as our characters, and then we were like, okay, cool, what's up? What's next? But yeah, those were the good old times. Good old times.
Nothing beats those, man.
Mm.
The first memories of D&D will sit with you forever. I don't know how long you've been playing, but I've been playing 15 years, and every campaign I've ever played sits right in the front of my mind every time I play.
Mm. I think I've been playing D&D. I can't even tell you. I think the first time I ever played D&D, which was not really playing, was like 18 because I was 18 and then because my partner at the time was doing Dungeons and Dragons at this like comic book store, and they were like, "Come with us." And I was like, "Okay, sure. I don't know how to play. Help me with the character sheet." I was like, no, you're good." I was like, "What? Um, like, what am I
Oh my
doing here?
goodness.
What am I doing here?" I was like, just like Google it." And I was like, "What? No, what?" And then I just came there being like, "Okay, cool. I'm a warlock elf." And they're like, "I did two spells," and I was like, "Do you have anything else?" "No, I don't. I don't know what I'm doing." I did two spells, and I was like, "Okay, I'm done. I guess. Yeah, are we good? What level am I supposed to?" It was such a mess, but it was a fun experience to like be there and sit there and witness everything, and then coming back to it later on was fun.
Well, it sounds like everyone's first character creation process was an absolute mess because mine was too. I was at this, ah man, I don't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, but we were playing with like 10 people. I have never ever played a game that big and never will I play a game that big again. I showed up with a level 1 character. Turns out somebody was supposed to tell me it was a level 10 campaign. And as a beginner playing level 10 D&D, that is very intimidating. So it was just a convoluted mess.
Absolutely, my gosh. Like, oh man, I had this discussion with my group actually about like starting out as level 1 to 2 is good for new players, whether or not that's a good starting point. And I was like, yeah, it does make sense because like when you get to level threes, that's kind of where subclasses kind of get iffy. But you already start subclasses when you get from 1 to 2, depending on what classes you get to. So it doesn't make too much of a big difference. But like for a person starting out who just doesn't know about action economy or doesn't know about like uh, spell usage, it's much useful to just start out small and like not overwhelm people. So level 1 and 2 is a good starting point at the very least.
I would agree. I would agree. Baby steps are the best way to learn. I
Hmm.
like being thrown into the fire. Like I feel like at least that's the way I prefer to learn. But like at the same point, you have to counteract with small steps at a time. Like if I'm level 10 warlock and I'm like, okay, how many? I can't read this. How many Eldritch blasts do I get? Okay, am I? Let's say I'm also a sorcerer. Okay, can I twin spell this? Like it's just like it's mad confusing for beginners. And anytime I run a one shot, you always start at level 1 because it is the easiest to grasp. And if that one shot turns into a like 50 shot, well, there you go. Now you're starting to learn how to play the game. I'm actually doing that with another table with some buddies from the wrestling business of mine, and one of them had never played before, and I was like, let's start low, let's work your way up. By the 2.5 hour mark, totally got it. Didn't even need me to hold his hand anymore. So at least that I feel for me that's very fulfilling because I feel like I've taught someone how to play D&D, and two, it helps them learn and take that to maybe another table when they want to go play D&D again. So I feel like I'm doing something good when I start someone at such a low level because I feel like it is easier to learn that way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'll get up to our next question. Something about spotlighting your artist. You have some great artwork on your channel made by Christopher Collin, aka dracomeister on Insta. How did you come to know each other?
Man, networking, it's
Mm.
crazy. I've known Chris for a long time. Man, I'm trying to think, about 12 years now, and we met in high
Wow.
school. We always played football with each other growing up. American football. Let me
Yeah, yeah, sure, no
clarify that.
problem. Yeah.
And we would go out and play like almost every weekend. And I didn't know until recently that he was a freaking artist. And I said, bro, I started a D&D podcast and I need, and it was more for myself because I've never seen my characters come to life before. I need art of my characters, please. And he started cooking stuff up for me, sending me concept work, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we're starting to cook. We're starting to cook." And then now he's done so many things for me. Like he made this portrait of Alistair. That's my profile picture on Discord.
Mm.
He's made all the characters from Tales of Lodrianth. His art has gotten so much better over the last 6 months. It is crazy. He had started only drawing humans, practically. I mean, like human looking
Hmm.
races. I have now him drawing dragonborns with zero problems. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the best artist, but drawing a human is hard. I can only imagine that drawing a dragonborn is 10 times harder because the scales, the rough edges, the amount of detail that goes into it. Chris is just such a fantastic artist, and honestly, it's been a pleasure to work with him. And if you get the opportunity, I would hit him up for a commission. I absolutely would. His
Mhm.
his artwork is impeccable when it comes to like character design and like collaborating with you. And he always is very timely, and very communicative in his process. And I can't say that besides a couple of handful of people, most artists don't do that.
Mm. Yeah, it's great. I'll put a link to his Insta on the clip, and I'll also show it in the video. But like, yeah, I was looking for their art. It's very good, I have to say. And I think it's something is beautiful about seeing your characters brought to life. When me and Corvin first met, it was in a past campaign, and then they just started doing comic book art of our characters out of nowhere. And it was like not even anything. I was like, what the? It's a weird feeling of like seeing a character you've like played out just being brought to life. It's just wow, you know.
It is. It brought a tear to my eye the first time I saw Alistair come to life, because this isn't my first time I played Alistair Darkheart. I've been trying to like have a character that over the years I want to refine and try to make the perfect character, and I think I've reached that precipice.
Hmm.
And to see him brought to life like for like the first time, because I'd never had him brought to life in such a manner, it literally brought a tear to my eye, because
Hmm.
it might be because I connect with this character a lot, because I've gone through a lot of struggles in my life, and I'm still trying to push forward, because I think that's one of the most important things. But to see it, I'm actually getting a little choked up thinking about it right now. That I get to see one of my favorite characters alive, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely valid. I feel like I felt something very similar when someone did fan art of our avatars that we made for ourselves. I remember I did a sketch of my avatar years ago, and Corvin did it themselves. That brought me like, oh, someone just appreciated my art. But that was something very beautiful. And then someone just randomly out of nowhere like messaged us and was like, hey, I like what you guys do. And then they just started drawing everyone, and it was just such a beautiful thing. And I remember Corvin was just like, we were texting, but I could like feel from the text that they were just like bawling right now. Like no one had ever done fan art of their art before, and I feel like that's such a that's such a deep thing. No one really understands when you're an artist is the appreciation of your artwork. And yeah, I'm being choked up by it right now. Fuck me. Um, but but yeah, I'll say them. I'll say who they are. Capsulita Decianuro. Sorry if my Spanish is off. It's been a while. But yeah, they've been doing great work for not for us, but about us. And it's yeah, it's a great feeling. And I hope in the future, when we start getting a bigger fan base, we'll have more appreciation. And I think you guys as well will have that feeling as well. I mean, like you must have a really fun fan base as well.
I, I do, and it's been starting. It's crazy, because like we started like with nothing. Like we would get low engagement, and that's fine. You got to start from somewhere. Then one day, it was a couple months ago, I had someone named Jason comment on one of our Facebook posts. Don't know this person. I think I have a connection with them somehow. I'm not sure, but I'm not friends with them on Facebook or anything. And they just commented how much they love the podcast. I
Mm.
immediately started. I dropped everything and started fucking crying, because fuck, I'm getting choked up again. God damn it!
Yeah.
It makes me feel like what I'm doing is good, and that I'm making someone's life a little better, because I've gone through so much bullshit in my life to make me think so negative of myself all the time, and I'm trying to overcome that, and trying to overcome all the negative emotions that I feel.
Mm.
And seeing stuff like that makes me want to keep fucking going and
Yeah.
never give up. And I want to shout out to Jason, shout out to Chris. You guys are literally like the best. You guys make me want to keep going, man. You guys are awesome.
Mm. It's the small things in life, man. It's the comments. It's the it truly is the small things. Uh, all right. What was I gonna say? Let's move on to something a bit something less choky. Um, as you can clearly see by my side, there's a magical vending machine in which you can summon any snack or drink at your disposal. What is your go-to snack or beverage whenever playing D&D?
mm, okay. I'll give you both the beverage and the snack. The snack is or the beverage is a Diet Coke.
Okay.
I can't have regular soda because I very much care about what I put into my body, and I love working out in the gym, so it'd be a Diet
Same.
Coke.
Mm-hmm.
Valid.
Valid.
And then a snack. Man, recently I've been on this kick where I just eat a bunch of fruit. Like it's like I know it's not like chips or something like people like regular say I'll eat like a bag of Doritos, which nothing wrong with that. I love Doritos, man. They're awesome. But man, recently I've been on a cantaloupe kick, and I'll just be eating some cantaloupe while playing D&D.
Nice.
Random, I know, but what about you? What's yours?
Oh man. At tables, I'll be snacking on anything you put in front of me. Don't really care too much. Won't be drinking a lot. I won't be drinking alcohol. I'm not much of a drinker. Um, Typically when I'm like playing for our sessions for Oculus, I'll have like this lactose-free chocolate milk. This is like a dark soya chocolate milk. I'll have on the side. It'll go. You'll sometimes hear it when when the people are talking, but I apologize. But yeah, that's kind of my go-to drink. For a snack, I have been. What have I been eating? I've been eating like dehydrated apples, which are kind of
Ooh,
like,
that sounds good.
yeah, it's like sweet and crunchy. And then I've also had like these almonds, which are like they have removed like the outer layer, and I've removed the outer layer. I put them into like a pan and heat them up and toast them, and then I put honey and a little bit of like cayenne sauce on top to have these kind of spicy, crunchy, sweet little almonds.
You're giving me ideas.
Yeah,
I'm about to go buy some almonds right now
yeah.
and go cook them on the stove, man.
I'm also kind of a health nut, so I like finding creative little things to do around the house, you know. Like I recently just made like tortillas, like whole wheat tortillas at home, and they were like really good. And I've started making like
Ooh.
wraps.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
I look, I more power to you, especially when you're making it from scratch. That is not an easy feat. That
It's
is not an easy
easier
feat.
than you. I'll say it's easier than you think. To be fair, it's literally just like you get whole wheat flour, you put some water, you put some olive oil, you put some salt and some baking powder, like just like mix it with your hands and then cut it into pieces and just heat it up and you're good. It's like it's not overtly complicated. It's more time consuming, if anything.
Ah, I see. I see.
Hmm. But I'm also Italian, so that kind of helps with the cooking aspect of things. So yeah,
Oh yeah, obviously.
truly. No, yeah. Being in Italy, it is kind of hard to like be a bit of a health nut because there's so much good food that's not good for you, just readily available to you. Like I can't tell you how many times where it's like I eat pizza and then like, oh man, I'm so full. I've eaten so much. Or like ice cream as
Man, and
well. Oh,
oh my God,
yeah.
you're making me hungry for like the bad stuff. And I want to order a pizza. There's this authentic Italian like
Hmm.
pizza joint up the street, and I'm kind of I might hop off this podcast, go play some basketball, and go get some pizza after now.
You gotta earn that pizza. You gotta burn some calories, and then you gotta get it.
Oh my God, you're not wrong because
Yeah.
if I'm gonna eat bad, I'm gonna go work out beforehand because
Mm.
there's no way in the nine hells I'm gonna feel like crap the whole day. Because if I eat a pizza, I'm going to feel like crap the whole day if I don't
Yeah.
work out.
Truly, I remember like when I was in university, I was doing a BJJ on the side, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for people. Not I was giving BJJs. I was doing. It sounds off when you say it like that, but yeah, I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the side, so I do it like 4 times a week, and it was like at the end of the day, and then it was like full on sweat. It was hot, and then we went sauna afterwards. I was like the percentage of water in my body, like the water retention was like zero, and like the percent, like I was like paper thin at times, and then it just gave me all the reasons to just eat like as much bloody well food as I wanted. Like, oh, I had deep dish pizzas. I had like I had like full chickens, and then it was just crazy but fun. And I was
That does
still
sound fun.
I was still a string bean no matter what. It's like
Having that metabolism has to definitely be super beneficial because,
mm,
well, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 28.
mm.
My metabolism fell off 3 years ago, man. I'll eat a pizza, I'll gain freaking 10 pounds the next day, and I'll start crying in the bathroom for 30 minutes. Why am I so fat?
Get this out of me.
Stop.
Oh, that feeling of also that feeling was like when you wake up and it's like, oh, how heavy am I? And then you see that like even empty, fully empty, you're like over your max weight. It's like, oh fuck, dude. God damn it.
You just got to disconnect. Like you have to
Yeah,
know that's just at the end of the way, it's water weight.
yeah.
You'll
It's just
probably lose
water.
it
It's
in a
just
day.
water. That's all it is.
At least you hope.
Yeah. But yeah, now we've diverged too much from D&D. I'm sorry. We'll go back. We'll go back to it real quick. So here's a bit of a philosophical question, but it's something that I think every GM has to reconcile with. What draws the line between intelligence and wisdom?
Okay. I think I'm gonna explain this in the most simple way as possible, and then I'll go and give you an in-depth answer.
Hmm.
Intelligence is book smarts, wisdom is street smarts. So think about it from this way. Someone who goes to school, trains themselves to be like valedictorian, A plus, 4.0 GPA. To me, that is what represents intelligence. Someone like me, on the other hand, I know my shortcomings. I am not the most intelligent individual. However, my insight and my wisdom is unmatched. My gut instinct and gut feeling, when I have conversations with people, looking at my surroundings, that is what wisdom truly is. So I draw the line between book smarts and street smarts, just to give you a very
Hmm.
short answer.
Certainly, certainly. What my opinion was when it comes to wisdom, like I trying to like put intelligence as like saying book smarts is one aspect, but it's very hard to like push all the concept of what intelligence is into a small little package. But for wisdom, for me, that's full on experience in general. Wisdom is like you may be dumb, but you've been through life and you know like the errors of your ways. Not well, that makes it sound like you've committed crimes, but more like you know the errors that you've done, and you know not to do them. So like that's what I've kind of like established wisdom to be. So I thought for me it's like intelligence, such a wide range of things. Like you could have like great capacity to withhold information. You could have the ability to like understand things clearer than most other people. You can have the ability to like calculate things faster than most other people. There's so much that intelligence has to it, and then for me, wisdom is like a bit more of a basic concept of like you've experienced things and therefore you've learned from them. That's my kind of like my thinking of it when trying to break it down.
And I think that's a totally valid way to see it, because like you said, I got my gut instinct, like my wisdom from life experience.
Mm.
Like it just doesn't come from nowhere. This is a learned behavior. Most patterns like this are learned behaviors. My insight and gut feeling when I meet people for the first time, and you're getting like a first impression from them. Most of the time, my gut is right. I would say 100%. Like when you're talking about life experience, wisdom is it. And you're definitely right about the intelligence stuff too. It's not all about book smarts, because it comes up with like intelligence is more like you're thinking about like what happened in the past and trying not to repeat it, like something like that, for example,
Hmm.
right? So I would say that you know both of our philosophies in their own way are definitely correct.
Yeah, I think with philosophical points in itself, they're like opinion-based things. So there's not like you can say that you are wrong, I am correct on every fucking. But
And if you know
yeah,
if you know someone like that, you don't want to fucking be with them,
exactly.
trust me.
Those actually motherfuckers.
We all know a couple of
Yeah.
those. I used to be guilty of that. I'm not gonna lie. Learn from wisdom. Learn from the errors of my ways.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say that the people who are actually aren't wise. That's one factor of they lack wisdom. Hmm. Ah, fantastic. But yeah, those are my main questions, and I think that now that we're nearing the end, as I see the bus in the horizon, I'd like to thank you again, Zach, for taking the time to chat with me. You can take the rest of this time to spotlight any upcoming projects, series, or anything that's being a part of now.
Absolutely. By the way, thanks, Nick, for having me. It was an absolute pleasure to be here and have a conversation with you. At this bus stop, I do see the bus on the horizon, so I won't take up too much of the spotlight. But some of the things that I'm working on right now are one, getting back into the professional wrestling business. So if anybody here finds their way to Florida, just know that you might see me on the professional wrestling circuit here soon. Other things that I'm working on right now, we are working on setting up the second half of the first arc of Thrones. So if you guys want to check that out, Alistair's trying to get to Waterdeep with Daedalus to clear his name from the murder of his family, which he didn't do. Falsely accused. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the second arc of Tales of Lodrianth, where they're going to be going into these mind flayer bases and trying to navigate the political structures of the continent of Lodrianth. Other than that, that's all I'm working on right now. But man, once again, thanks for having me. It's really been a pleasure and an honor to be here today.
No, thank you. We really wanted you to be the first guest of our podcast because you and like everyone at Forge Lane was one of the first OG people that kind of followed us, and it was very much an honor for us to be able to get you on here. And yeah, thanks so much for taking the time. I know that you have things going on with your wedding and you want to see your fiance, so like this does mean a lot to us.
Absolutely, man. And man, I did get some crap from my dad about, because he was like, "Hey, you got to come to this wedding venue with me today." I'm like, "I already saw the venue. I just need you to pay the down payment and book it. What do I need to be there for? I'm not backing out on this podcast. Hell no. I'm a man of my word. I am a man of my word, just like Alistair Darkheart." Being lawful neutral.
Yes. Oh man, if we talked about like the laws of a character, we'd be here all day. But I know that things we gotta be moving. But thanks so much. Well, and for everyone here who listened to the podcast, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to see more of this stuff, please give a like, a comment, or something. I'll still do it, even if you don't like it. I'll talk to everyone else. Bye.